Let's take a closer look at the Black Series Darth Vader 6-inch figure from the Obi-Wan Kenobi series.
Villa Varykino, living the Star Wars life.
Hello there, and thanks for visiting the Villa Varykino YouTube channel. Today I'm going to take a closer look and unbox the Black Series Darth Vader from the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. I realize this is a slightly older figure by now. We've had this one sitting on our shelf for a little while, but we know that the final dual Darth Vader Black Series figure from the Obi-Wan Kenobi series that we see at the end of the show, not too spoilery, with the crack in his helmet exposing some of his face is coming out. We are very, very excited about that one. So we figured we better get on and unbox this one, so when we can get our hands on the final dual version, we can compare them side by side. So let's take a closer look at the packaging before I get stuck in and open up this figure. So of course we have the very classic modern style of the Black Series packaging with the front window. This was before we really got into those blind plastic-free packaging line that Hasbro is reverting back to. I'm hoping that the new Vader will come in this packaging, so if you want to have both of them side by side on your shelf, they will look great together. We can see the figure nicely packaged there in the clean window with a red lit saber accessory there. They have this kind of pale blue color stripe for the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, which of course Obi-Wan's lightsaber is blue. That's a good match, and we can see the Darth Vader title there also in that same color. On the side we have some fun Darth Vader artwork with his fist up, and it looks like we get the little hint of the blade there, though that could be from the character next to him on the sort of lineup of art. But I think it's a really neat picture of Vader there on the side. On the back we have that same artwork here, and the text reads, Obi-Wan Kenobi is set years after the dramatic events of Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, where Kenobi faced the corruption of his friend and Jedi apprentice Anakin Skywalker turned Sith Lord Darth Vader. Just excuse the bit of the price sticker there that really didn't want to come off, so this is why we're unboxing this one. And we can see this one is 02 of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series there with that colored stripe. So that is the packaging. Let's open it up and take a closer look at the figure inside. I'm going to open it up from the bottom. That's my favorite way to go into these boxes, because the top just has that hanger that just gets a little bit messy, trying to sort of make the box look like it once did on the shelf. So I'm going to slide this out nice and easy. I'm going to pop that box there in the back, and we can see, very exciting, we can see the figure there in the plastic tray. Hopefully this isn't going to be too hard to get them all out. Just take that sellotape off so I can get that saber accessory out. Very cool. Let's see how hard or easy it is to pop him out of his tray. There's actually like a second tray here in the back that I might just have to remove because it's holding his cloak. His cloak goes through that tray, so that's a little bit different. I haven't unboxed a Black Series with a soft goods cloak in a little while, so I couldn't remember how they packaged those in there. So if I take that off, we can get in here. Lots of plastic packaging for this one. So yeah, we can see that insert in the plastic where his cape is sticking through. Keeps it all nice and tidy, I suppose. Let's see how well I can get this guy out. There we go, pulling his cloak through that gap. And then I can take a closer look at the figure. Just going to pop all this plastic off to one side. There we go. I think that fabric cloak looks really cool. If I just oh, there we go. And then we can kind of get it over the shoulders a little bit better, so we can see that full fabric cloak. That looks really cool. It's really quite a wide cloak. I like the fullness that they always give to the Vader cloaks in action figure form. I think that looks very good. So I'll take a closer look at the paint job and the articulation. I think this one looks pretty good. We spotted a few on the shelves, and by and large they have pretty good paint jobs. We didn't notice any major flaws for the Vader figure. I'm always looking in particular at some of the finer details, like the buttons on his chest box and belt, of course. That tends to be where you get the little bit of a mismatch. But even the small details, like that silver cheek and the tusks here on the helmet, that's all pretty well painted. Those are small details. They're obviously really crucial to the Darth Vader helmet, and I think they are done very nicely on this one. We've got a solid plastic helmet here. Some of the vintage collection ones use a slightly more sort of rubbery helmet that you can sort of squeeze with your fingers. This one is nice and solid. And we've even got, if I just move his arms a little, this inner soft goods cloak here as well. So it starts across the back, it's underneath the belt. We can see it on the front here, down the sides of the chest, and running down through to the skirt section here. So I'm just really enjoying the texture of this cape. I think it looks good. It's nice and smooth. This kind of fabric it won't fray as badly as some of the other sort of textured fabrics I've seen. Some of the TVC figures, you can sort of start to fluff up the edges of the fabric just by holding it. This one feels quite nice and sturdy. I think it's a good one for the scale of this figure. So I'm just going to check out some of the articulation. I notice on the vintage collection that the shoulder armor is kind of connected to the chest armor with a little bit of a gap in the back so that we can articulate the figure. This one, we can see that the shoulder armor is actually attached underneath that fabric cloak component here. I know it's black on black. I'm trying to sort of show it well. And the shoulder armor is here. So it doesn't actually sort of touch. We've got that fabric in between. So I'm curious to see. I feel like his arm is not really gonna, it's not gonna, there we go. Just a little bit stiff. So it will flex all the way up, and that kind of tucks in. It almost disappears when he puts his arm straight up there, which is interesting. And we can see that really cool sculpting of that ribbed undersuit there and those shiny gloves, which I think look really cool there. So got that sort of articulation in the elbows as we would expect. And we've got articulation here at the wrists. It can turn nicely, little bit stiff, not too bad. The elbows have a sort of a click to them, but you know, pretty good posability in the arm there. And I would assume pretty much the same thing on the other side. Got a little bit of a stiffness going out to that sort of extension point. This one is a little stiffer on this side, but yes, we can still get same sort of extension. Bending his elbow in a weird way there. There we go. And yeah, we can see we've got two slightly different hand poses here. This one has a little bit of a point, like he's doing a forced choke, and this one has a bit more of a grip for holding a lightsaber in that hand. So moving down, we have a little bit of rotation at the waist, though of course because this fabric flows through, that's going to limit the posing and sort of how far around we can go with that. I wouldn't really want to sort of tear or distort the fabric underneath that waist belt. I think the sculpting on the belt and the codpiece is really well. This almost looks like a pleather, but it is plastic. I like the texture on that. Good paint job on the details on the belt. I put his arms down. We have got standard articulation at the hips there. We can do interesting poses there. There is a seam at the top of the thighs, this line here, which of course if you start to move it, you will sort of misalign the plastic sculpting lines of his undersuit, but you can sort of rotate it around so you can get a little bit of a secondary lineup, but it's very stiff. it wants to sort of click back into place. So that's there if you want to. Personally, I prefer to try and line up all my sculpting lines as close as I can, because it really sort of, it bothers me when it looks like a clear break there. So we've got some interesting sort of pegs here at the knee. I can see these holes at the side, which I'm not the biggest fan of. I prefer it when the joints are a little bit more hidden there. So we've got this kind of obvious articulation when we flex that knee back. We can see that there. I do like the shape of the front armor on those boots. I think that looks nice. I like the mix of sort of the finishes here. The armor components look really glossy and shiny, and then we've got this sort of really textured sculpting for the sort of the fabric components of his costume there, which I really quite like. And then we have some simple minimal articulation at the ankles so that we can get a little bit of maneuverability for posing. That's reasonably clicky, not too soft but not too stiff. I like being able to sort of move a little bit at the ankles, particularly when posing and trying to get these figures to stand up on the shelf. So I'm just going to see how well these going to stand up. Reasonably sturdy. He feels like he's going to hold that pose pretty well on my display shelf. Pretty nice and sturdy. It doesn't feel like he's going to tip too much. All in all, pretty cool looking. I'm just going to see how well he does with his lightsaber. So I'm expecting that this should, yep, the blade comes out of the hilt, because I notice on the left side of his belt, if I can get his arm out of the way, there is a small belt hook here. So we should be able to, because there's a little ring here on the Vader lightsaber hilt there. So we should be able to clip it on like so. So if we want to do some poses where he's doing some force moves with his lightsaber on his belt, we can attach it there. Or if I get him to just stand up in the background, maybe just put him down. If I click this blade back in, which it goes in a little bit stiff, and it's going to take a little bit of work to get that in all the way, because that looks a bit bent, doesn't it? I don't know if there's something in there. That looks a bit straighter. Yeah, that's the one thing about the ones with the removable blades. If they don't go quite straight back in, they look wonky. So I'm going to see how well this hilt is going to go in his hand, so long as he doesn't move his hand around. Oh, it's a tight fit, but there we go. Got that in, and then I can stand him up there and pose his cloak. I think he looks pretty cool. Of course, we weren't going to be able to build a Obi-Wan Kenobi series, Black Series collection without Darth Vader himself. And I think this is a really cool figure. I'm really looking forward to, of course, getting that final dual version with the cracked helmet. I think that was such a iconic scene. I'm really glad that they are going to be able to put that one out for us. I am curious to see whether there will be much different compared to this figure, whether it's basically going to be just a different helmet sculpt, or whether there'll be some subtle differences with the rest of the sculpting. I know I wouldn't hold it against Hasbro to basically reuse a lot of the parts on this, but I'm curious to see whether, if it's very, very similar, whether fans will just want to pick up that final dual version and basically not really feel like they need to get this one, or whether they're both sort of great pieces individually. I think he's really cool. I want to have both versions. There are a couple of Obi-Wan Black Series figures from the series, so you can do multiple scenes with Vader. You've got the sort of the Tiburon Station and the Wandering Jedi versions. So I am very much looking forward to putting a few scenes together. I think this Vader looks really cool. He's just such an iconic Star Wars character, of course, and we need more Darth Vader figures in our collection. We've got a couple of other Black Series, but we've decided to keep them in their packaging. But Obi-Wan, we want to build a scene, so I thought this one was a fun one to start with. So that we can start building that collection up. I think he looks really cool. I think it's interesting a little bit. I kind of wish that the armor was a little bit more attached to that shoulder, to the front plates. There's that kind of step, and we can see just the raw edge of fabric, which is a little bit, possibly just a little bit distracting, because that's not really how some of the other figures do it. I'm used to the vintage collection where the shoulder bell is kind of sitting right up against this plate, so it almost looks like a single piece across. It's just interesting to me to see how differently it is for the 6-inch figure. Just finally getting that one in person. So there you have it. The Obi-Wan Kenobi Darth Vader 6-inch figure from the Black Series line. I'll put up a few close-up pictures so you can see him in his proper sort of close-up detail. I think this is a great figure. I'm very happy to have him in my collection. Thank you so much for watching. Do check out our other videos for more Star Wars unboxings, including Black Series and Vintage Collection. Catch you in the next video, and as always, may the Force be with you.
If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like, check out our other videos, and subscribe for alerts about new uploads. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.